Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are going to be diving a bit deeper into a big rumor suggesting a big Nintendo presentation is brewing. Now, what might this presentation entail? Metroid Prime 4, the next 3D Mario, and other Mario 40th anniversary related things? Something having to do with Switch 2, if not entirely being about Switch 2? There are a few different possibilities with this, and this rumor is coming from a seemingly credible place, but at the same time, part of this rumor conflicts with another rumor that people have been going wild about that suggests Switch 2 could be coming out this March, which seems kind of hard to believe, but also this rumor seems to be coming from a credible place. So what gives? What's accurate? Are either accurate? And what does this all suggest, if anything? That's what I want to get into today. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell, and if you're unsure, watch through this video and then consider subscribing and hitting that bell. So because we're going to do a bit of a comparison of two different rumors here, there is one rumor that's coming from a Chinese forum, Weibo, where it's talked about how the Switch 2 is going to see a reveal in January and a release in March. Now, a Switch 2 reveal in January would probably be a big Nintendo presentation, but the idea of Switch 2 coming out in March is very hard to believe at this point. At least with a reveal in January, a 2-month turnaround just doesn't seem realistic. And I have argued that Nintendo may very well be having a shorter turnaround from reveal to release. For Switch 1, it was a 4.5 month period. I can see them doing a 4-month or even 3-month period. But 2? That just seems to be a bit much, even accounting for the fact that throughout this generation, Nintendo has trended towards having quicker turnarounds. 2 months just seems like too little, not to mention that Nintendo would definitely be deep into mass manufacturing before January if this is the case, and leaks would be very likely. And at least in the case of Switch, Nintendo revealed the Switch once they really dived into mass manufacturing. So I'm skeptical, but this particular post comes from a user who teased several huge announcements for the June Nintendo Direct. All the big announcements: Zelda, Dragon Quest, Metroid, Mario Party, Ace Attorney, and more. And that's why I think it's worthy of conversation, because there's a history of this person teasing several things and getting them all right. But there's another big rumor that has popped up this week from a seemingly credible place: Samus Hunter. Samus Hunter, while in years past has had more of a spotty record, in this specific year, they've only said a few little things, but these little things have amounted to significant announcements. Emil the Smiling Man, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, the Donkey Kong Park Nintendo Direct, and now there's a little bit more out there. But because of these 3 first announcements that were totally spot on, and were clearly not information taken from others, even in the case of Emil the Smiling Man, and technically also Xenoblade Chronicles X, they were backed by Pyoro after the fact, after they were teased, and then both were confirmed a little bit later, I'm inclined to believe the things said by Samus Hunter. And we've already talked about the Metroid Prime 2 stuff that Samus Hunter discussed yesterday, but something crazy that they mentioned was a big Nintendo presentation where Metroid Prime 4 would be having a significant emphasis. Now, it's possible they're just referring to a Nintendo Direct, but because they didn't refer to it as a Direct but just a big presentation, that has a leaning in the direction of Switch 2. Now, mind you, I'm of the belief that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will have a second version. There's going to be the already announced version for Switch 1, but there will also be a Switch 2 version. A Switch 2 version with enhancements to match the abilities of the Switch 2. A lot of this would be in the visual department, but there also might be some controller differences as well. And we've talked about this before and why I think it's likely. There are signs, but of course it's not confirmed. But I have been of the mind for some time that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond will have a little bit of the Breath of the Wild treatment. I don't know if I would go so far as saying that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to be the day one launch title for Switch 2, although I have discussed it as a possibility in the past. More recently, I've been leaning in the direction of it's just going to be 3D Mario, which is going to be a big deal, and we do have Mario's 40th anniversary approaching, and also Mario Day in March, so I feel like we will likely have news on this by that point, especially considering that Nintendo has already confirmed to us that there will be an announcement about the Switch 2 before the end of the fiscal year, which ends next March. And so this presentation isn't said to be just about Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4 is simply going to have a big emphasis there. And whether it's a Nintendo Direct or a Switch 2 showcase of some kind, either way, Metroid Prime 4 having a big segment makes sense. We've already seen that Nintendo starting to prepare the big Metroid marketing push. They've recently added Metroid Prime 4 to the official Metroid website. We just got the official announcement of this visual retrospective art book of Metroid Primes 1 through 3 that's coming out this summer. It's an official Nintendo partnership. And also, I just want to mention this, Metroid Prime 4 has been nominated for Most Anticipated Game at the Game Awards. I think we might see something there, as we've been discussing over the last few weeks. So it feels like there might be a bit of a marketing push about to happen for Metroid Prime 4. We already have some official signs. But Samus Hunter said several things going beyond just his big presentation yesterday, and one of them conflicts with this other rumor about a March release. So here Samus Hunter says, I read rumors for a Switch 2 presentation in January for a release in March. No, they are not going to release it this fiscal year, and it won't get a marketing push of less than 2 months. Here they're clearly saying they do not think that it's going to come out in this fiscal year. They think it comes out afterwards, and they think that a less than 2-month period of time for marketing a whole new next generation console is not going to happen. And, you know, this does make sense to me. I can buy into a January reveal, but a March release with a January reveal feels like a bit much. But there was something else interesting brought up by Samus Hunter that I actually missed. So Hayden on Twitter asked, do you know anything about 4? Metroid Prime 4, we assume, right? Samus Hunter responds by saying, I suggest you to play Metroid Prime Pinball to get a glimpse on something. And I find that very interesting. This is not just a tease about Metroid Prime 4 having news or being a part of a Direct or a Switch 2 presentation, but something about the game it looks like. So then what might they be suggesting about Metroid Prime 4 by saying we play Metroid Prime Pinball, the greatest game ever? I'm joking, but Metroid Prime Pinball was actually a really good game back on the Nintendo DS. Metroid Prime Pinball had a huge focus on Samus's Morph Ball because, well, she's a ball and that works for pinball, and sometimes you'd have more than one ball, sometimes you would transform into Samus normally and then shoot hordes of enemies or fight big bosses, which is kind of normal for Samus, but maybe this pinball thing is somehow hinting at an ability of Samus will have in Metroid Prime 4 that might be pretty interesting. We'll be like, oh, that's something new we haven't seen before. So it might be worth getting back to playing Metroid Prime Pinball. I'm gonna have to dust off my Nintendo DS. But coming back to this idea of a big Nintendo presentation, it's really not that crazy of a rumor because we already know that Nintendo's going to make an announcement about Switch 2 before April of next year. And we presume this announcement is more than just another Twitter announcement because they've done a couple of those. And when they've done a couple of those, they've said we still have an announcement to make before the end of the fiscal year, suggesting that a Twitter announcement like of backwards compatibility is not what they would refer to as announcing the Switch 2. I believe with pretty good confidence that this would actually be our first look at the console, where we'll actually get to see how it looks, maybe some games running on it, some features, basically like what we got with the Switch 1 first look trailer, if not more. And this could be the presentation Samus Hunter is referring to, or even the reveal in January this user from Weibo is referring to. But the idea of this presentation having a big emphasis on Metroid Prime 4 to me is extremely exciting, but also the potential of other things as well. We've recently talked about how it looks like there is a good chance we're going to see big 40th anniversary plans for Mario, and a big Mario reveal or two in this initial presentation about Switch 2 makes a lot of sense. Us seeing the next 3D Mario, us seeing the next Mario Kart, we could be in for a very good time once this presentation comes around. Do I expect this presentation this year? No. I think January makes a lot of sense, possibly even February. We have heard from PH Brazil that there's supposed to be some kind of direct early next year, and the way things have been going, I'm kind of leaning in the direction of we're just going to get like a partner showcase for Switch 1. And that has me thinking more so that this Nintendo presentation isn't going to be just a Switch 1 Direct. Although, if we haven't seen Metroid Prime 4 again by the time we get this presentation, then maybe it does make sense for them to have just a general Direct where they talk about Switch 1 things, including Prime 4. But, personally, if we do see Prime 4 again, then I think they can maybe start talking about Prime 4 for Switch 2 the next time we see it. Which comes back to my theory that maybe we see Prime 4 at the Game Awards this year, which would be on December 12th, and we would just be a couple weeks away from seeing if this actually pans out. Of course, that's just a theory. We don't know what's actually going to happen. Now, if you want me to tell you which I think is more likely to be a better source here, Samus Hunter or this user on Weibo, I'm more inclined to believe Samus Hunter. And I say that knowing that in the past, Samus Hunter has said a lot of things, and some of those things were wrong back in the day. They said so many things back in the day. It was almost like a shotgun approach, but from everything we've seen this year, they've taken a significant break. They've changed how they've handled things. It looked like they've cleaned up their source of information, and so far, they've been spot on. They've teased more significant announcements than pretty much any other leaker out there, save for Midori with all the codename stuff. And at least in the case of Samus Hunter, we have clear visibility of everything they've been saying. This other user, I do not have that much visibility on it, and while they did tease a lot of things in the June Direct, a lot of those things were things that others were predicting, myself included. I predicted that we would see a new Super Mario Party game. I predicted that we would see a new 2D Zelda, that we would see Metroid Prime 4. Now, they got a lot of teases correct, which leads me to believe that it was more than just a good set of predictions. Perhaps looking at other leakers might help the legitimate ones. So I'm unsure, but when we also account for the fact that we're hearing about a 2-month turnaround here, that's just harder to believe. The Samus Hunter stuff seems a bit more realistic, so I'm leaning in that direction. I don't think the Switch 2 is coming out in March. It's really a scenario where I kind of have to see it to believe it. So maybe we do have a big Nintendo presentation that has to do with Switch 2 in January, and maybe we do see Metroid Prime 4 and 3D Mario and more, and they give us a release date, and if it's March, that's when I'll probably believe it. And if it's another date, well, at this point, that's what I expect. Something a little bit later down the road. Not a lot later. I still think first half of 2025 is in the cards, especially if we're talking about a reveal happening in January, because Nintendo, with Switch 1, had a quick turnaround, and I don't think they'll be changing that up too much. If anything, it still might be shorter, just not 2 months, in my opinion. But what do you all think? What do you make of this possibility of a big Nintendo presentation? When might it happen? What will it entail? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.